Hello everyone, Prosperity here. I hope you've all been enjoying the Legion pre-patch so far. With all the changes that have happened to the classes and specializations, I thought it would be a good idea to make a few guides to help you better understand what's going on. This series will guide you through the class changes for Legion, and this video will be reviewing some of the intricacies of your spellbook. Welcome to the intermediate guide to the Retribution Paladin in Legion. In today's video, I'll be covering the passive abilities and cooldowns for the Retribution Paladin. If you haven't watched my beginner's guide for the Retribution series, please pause this video and watch it, as the groundwork for the class is laid out in that video. I'll link it for you guys on screen and in the description. Now that we're all caught up, let's begin. There are 4 passives and 6 cooldowns for Retribution, and this video will be split into 2 parts for each of our categories. Your passives are Heart of the Crusader, your Mastery, Divine Judgment, Retribution, and Sword of Light. Your cooldowns are Shield of Vengeance, Lay on Hands, Divine Shield, Avenging Wrath, Blessing of Protection, and Blessing of Freedom. First, let's get into the passive abilities, as shown on screen. Your passives change how some of your abilities work together, mostly by boosting their effectiveness. The 4 I've mentioned are just your baseline passives, and you'll have more available to you through talents, which I'll go over in the next video. Heart of the Crusader increases your mounted speed by 20% and can't be stacked with any other movement speed increasing effects. If you take the talent for Divine Steed, this also works on that cooldown as you're technically mounted for the duration of the spell. Your Mastery, Divine Judgment, increases the damage of your Judgment ability by 24% and causes the debuff of your Judgment spell to increase the damage of your Holy Power spenders by 12%. These are the baseline effects, with the Mastery stat increasing the effectiveness. The damage increase of your Judgment ability will always match your Mastery percentage, with the bonus to your Holy Power spenders on a target with the Judgment debuff being half of that value. Retribution grants you a 20-second buff that increases your damage done by 20% and reduces your damage taken by 30% whenever a party or raid member dies within 40 yards of you. This doesn't affect your gameplay directly in any way, but it's a nice boost when something bad happens to your team. Sword of Light simply increases the damage that you deal with two-handed melee weapons by 5%. This passive basically just incentivizes you to stay within melee range of your target as much as possible, contributing a lot of damage to you through normal melee attacks, as well as boosting some of your spells. Now let's move on to the cooldowns, showing on screen now. These are your baseline cooldowns, which you'll have access to more of course through talents. For now, let's go over what your baseline cooldowns can do. Shield of Vengeance is a sort of defensive and offensive spell, touting a 2-minute cooldown. The defensive part creates a shield around you that lasts until depleted or for 15 seconds. The offensive part comes when the shield is depleted. The shield will then explode, dealing the total damage absorbed as holy damage, distributed evenly to all enemies within 8 yards. Lay on Hands is the same as it has always been, healing your target for an amount equal to your entire maximum health pool. This spell does cause forbearance, meaning that once you cast it on a target, another forbearance causing effect cannot be cast on them for 30 seconds. Divine Shield is on a 5-minute cooldown and protects you from all damage, physical and magical, for 8 seconds. This is one of the only spells in your toolkit that can be used while stunned or incapacitated. However, it causes forbearance on yourself. Avenging Wrath is your main offensive cooldown, increasing all damage and healing you deal by 35% for 20 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. This cooldown should be used as soon as an encounter starts and should be kept on cooldown as much as possible, unless you know you're coming to a part of a fight where you might not be able to smash things in the face. The other exception to this is if you know your team will be using a raid-wide cooldown like Bloodlust or Heroism soon. Blessing of Protection is another 5-minute cooldown that causes forbearance. This cooldown can be cast on yourself or a party or raid member, protecting whoever you've targeted from all physical attacks for 10 seconds. Note that Blessing of Protection does not work against magical spells or attacks. The last cooldown we have is Blessing of Freedom. This is your shortest cooldown at 25 seconds, granting immunity to movement impairing effects for 8 seconds when cast on yourself or a party or raid member. It should be noted that this ability is uncastable if you have lost control of your character. It also cannot break control loss effects on your team members. Let's recap. Stay close to your target when in combat to get the most damage possible from your abilities. Use Avenging Wrath as much as possible without wasting any of the duration of the spell. And use your defensive cooldowns wisely to stay alive and decrease the amount of healing that your healers need to do in an encounter. Follow these rules and you will almost certainly start to gain mastery over your class. that's going to be it for the intermediate guide to Retribution. With this guide, hopefully I've been able to help you to better understand some of the more intricate facets to the Ret Paladin. I'll be releasing the third part to the Retribution series covering talents in a few days, so subscribe to keep an eye out for that video. You can also click the I button up in the corner here to get a link to my playlist with all the guides I've made so far. If you have any questions for me regarding the Retribution Paladin, feel free to ask away in the comments section or on Twitter at TheLoranzas. Thank you so very much for watching, and as always, have fun.